All right, everyone. The topic to be reviewed in this session is the SMART philosophy, SMART, which stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. So, in order to comprehend what this SMART philosophy is all about, I would strongly suggest that you refer to Peter Drucker's MBO theory first, management by objectives theory, because it won't be an overstatement if, while discussing the question on SMART, it is mentioned in the beginning that SMART is just an improved version of MBO. So, in order to fully understand what SMART is all about, it is strongly recommended that you go through MBO first and then establish the link or the correlation between MBO and SMART. So, MBO, as you might be knowing, Management by Objectives by Peter Drucker, is a theory that underlines the importance of having an objective-oriented approach. In the opinion of Drucker, all businesses, they must adopt a strategy that is focused, well-planned, and they should avoid haphazard movements. So during strategy development, first of all, it has to be ensured that all business objectives, all goals, all tasks the managers assign to their workers, they have to be defined quantitatively, in numeric terms, in numbers. So instead of, instructing your worker to perform well or to produce or to distribute or to sell a large number of units, it is advisable that you specify it in quantitative or numeric terms. It's better to tell him to sell 25,000 units by the 30th of this month. That would be a clear-cut, precise, specific goal. So here I would like to show the correlation or the link between this point and the first point, which is discussed in SMART. As I mentioned in the beginning, SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So the specific, in fact, the second element also, measurable, both of these correlate with the first point that I just highlighted with reference to MBO. Because in MBO it is clearly described that the goals have to be defined in quantitative and numeric terms. So this basically is what SMART is trying to focus on by using the terminology specific and measurable. They're just trying to highlight the fact that whenever the management, whenever they assign a task to their workers, it has to be specific, clear-cut, and measurable, which simply means it can be determined in numeric terms. It can be calculated. So whenever you are working on a project or you are assigning a task or a business activity is being carried out, it is always advisable to specify the task in numbers. So if you have to meet a deadline, instead of telling your workers to finish it up quickly, specify the deadline, that we want you to carry out this task or meet the deadline, or we want you to manufacture this particular product by the 25th of this month. That would be a clear-cut, quantitative, or in other words, specific or measurable goal. So whenever you're discussing SMART, you have to make sure that you quote relevant examples. And like I just explained, all goals, they have to be specified in numbers or in quantitative terms. So that's what you need to know as far as specific and measurable are concerned. Then again, in MBO, Drucker states that the goals, they have to be realistic and challenging. And it makes a lot of sense also, because you see, the managers or the superiors, if they really want their workers or their subordinates to be productive, they have to make sure that the goals or the tasks that they specify, or when a worker is required to work on a particular assignment, it has to be challenging. It doesn't have to be a piece of cake. Make it challenging for your workers, because the workers should know that unless they make a serious effort, unless they give their 100%, they won't be able to achieve success. So as usual, as in my previous lectures also, I've been trying to emphasize that whenever you discuss something, whenever you're attempting a question, always try to justify your statements. Always try to give reasons. Whatever you discuss, there has to be a logic to it, right? So if a goal is specific, the logic is it will make it easier for the managers to keep an eye on the performance of their workers if it is specific and measurable. And they'll be able to assess whether the worker is lagging behind, and if yes, by how much. Right? If he was supposed to manufacture 100 units and so far he's managed 75 only, so another 25% to go. Similarly, in this second element, in which they say the goals have to be challenging and realistic, what they're trying to convey is that when a goal is challenging, when it is tough to achieve, the worker is forced to use, all his potential, bring all his skills to use, and make a serious or a 100% effort to achieve that objective, right? Because you see, if the work is, if the job is, or if the task is too simple to accomplish, then of course the productivity will be compromised. The worker will never make a serious effort because he would obviously think that this is not something challenging, and a half-hearted attempt will also take me to success. So when you are discussing SMART in this context, when we come across the term time bound, basically what they're trying to establish here is that you have to make it challenging for the workers. Whenever something is time bound, whenever a deadline has to be met, automatically the element of challenge, it is added to it. You're working on a project, and as such there are no restrictions in terms of time or deadline. Obviously then the workers won't be pushed and they won't be forced to make a serious effort. So by using the term time bound, basically it serves the same purpose as in the case of MBO when they use the word challenging. But of course it has to be realistic also. Challenging and realistic. And realistic is one word, one element which is common to both SMART and MBO. Both these theories, they correlate, as I've been mentioning, but realistic is one term which is used in both the theories, and the exact terminology, even the terminology is the same, right? So goals have to be challenging, but they have to be within the reach of their workers. They have to be realistic. It should be difficult for them to achieve. It should not be impossible for a worker to accomplish, right? So challenging or realistic, this is what they're saying. So basically, instead of challenging, they've used the term time bound, and realistic stays the same, right? And of course, we also in SMART, because SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound, you have to describe what the term attainable or achievable means. Obviously this goes on to show that it is essential that the managers, if they want their workers to be productive, of course, as we discussed, they have to assign difficult tasks or challenging tasks to them, but at the same time, it is important for them not to overlook the fact that the goals are attainable also. Because see, the objective is that the workers are all charged up and they're motivated, and they want to achieve success, they want to do something for their personal growth, professional growth, and they want to contribute towards the betterment or the success or growth of the organization also. But we will achieve this objective only if the goals are attainable. If the goal is not attainable, if it is almost impossible for the worker to achieve, then instead of motivating the worker, you will end up demotivating him or demoralizing him. So it is essential whenever you are attempting a question on SMART, whether it is in PA1, in the first paper, Business Concepts 1, or whether you need to discuss it with reference to a case study or a data response passage in paper 2, 3, or 4, you have to keep all these factors in mind. So SMART philosophy, just like MBO, is a very useful management technique. It goes a long way in enhancing the performance of workers, in motivating them, in improving productivity, so on and so forth, in carrying everything out in a streamlined way, in a well-organized way, overcoming clashes and conflicts, planning and coordinating everything. But having said that, you have to highlight one or two limitations also. The first one and the most important one being the workers, they are often reluctant to accept it. See, this is a drawback associated or a limitation associated with SMART and MBO also, that workers, since they're required to work or perform the duties in a disciplined way, if SMART is implemented, they are sometimes reluctant to accept it because they are required to adhere to a set of rules and regulations. And obviously, workers, they have to make an extra effort to be productive and to come up to the expectations of the management, and they have to follow those rules and regulations. They have to be more systematic in whatever they do. So because of this, sometimes they are sometimes reluctant to accept this wholeheartedly. And in order to motivate the workers, then obviously the management will be forced to offer financial and non-financial rewards to the workers in order to produce the desired results. So this happens to be like a limitation. But obviously, if it is handled tactfully, and if the managers, they're experienced enough, they should be able to overcome this problem. And sometimes, it is said that SMART sometimes proves to be a little inflexible also. Again, the same reason, because you see, there's a certain code of conduct that you need to adhere to, and there's a bit of inflexibility. So this could be another factor that can be mentioned as a limitation. But otherwise, as a whole, SMART, just like MBO, it happens to be a highly effective, a very useful management theory, and is known for producing above average results. All right, this should be it for now.